Hello, and a big welcome back to all my subscribers. So this is the next episode in my attempt to learn RISC-V assembly programming, and I'm just sort of letting you follow along with all the trials and tribulations and problems and issues that I've had to get a working program. So a quick recap. The program that I'm working on is a utility which, given a number in either decimal, binary, or hexadecimal, will print out that number in all three. So you give it a decimal number, and it will print out that decimal number as well as the hexadecimal equivalent and the binary equivalent of that number. So in theory, it's a very simple, straightforward thing to do. In practice, not so much. I'm having some real difficulties with this particular program. I've made progress since my last video. If you remember, in the last video I was attempting to write a function for parsing the command line argument and then converting that into decimal, binary, hexadecimal, and then output. Now the output function I've written previously, that all works, but I was struggling with parsing the command line arguments. I did a lot of work with GDB and a lot of break statements and a lot of just printing out values and all sorts of stuff, and then I eventually worked out that the problem I was having in the last video, where it wasn't working properly and it was just printing out rubbish, was because I used the LB instead of LD command in one place. And so I was loading a byte and not loading in the pointer to the string. So that caused it to go horribly wrong and took me 2 or 3 days of debugging to find the problem. So debugging and assembly is not easy as everybody on the tutorials on YouTube would lead you to believe. Okay, so before I show you the code, let me just say that I don't get any Patreon, I don't get any revenue from YouTube, but I am an author, and I would appreciate it if you could take a look at my website, XGI Publishing, and if you like some of the books there, follow the links to Amazon or Apple or Kobo or wherever, the major retailer, and purchase the book. I don't actually sell the book on my site. There's only links to trusted retailers so that people will, can use their credit card and be assured that there's no problem. So please have a look at that website, and I appreciate your bearing with me. Now, one of the things that I was doing was I was attempting to basically just run my conversion program and then get it to print out. Now this is actually working. As you can see here, I put in 55, a decimal 55. It prints out the fact that there's 2 arguments, and then it prints out the binary, decimal, and hexadecimal equivalents, and for 85 and 64. So this all works. Part of the reason that I was able to find the issue I had with debugging is I have completely changed the way that I now make the program. Before, everything was here in a single .s file. Now I have broken things out into a main.s, an h file, an output, and a parse line. Now the reason is this allowed me to separate out and trace down the bugs, because having it in one big monolithic file was a nightmare, trying to go up and down to work out what was happening. With it like this, I could actually do things like I could see both of them at the same time, which meant, because I could see them side by side, it just made things easier. So I could look through the main file and I could go through the pars command and look at that at the same time. So that was the main reason that I found the problem I had. So if I just quickly show you the make file, if you want to do something similar yourself. I'm just having the source and the build directory. So the build directory is where all the .o files will go, and the final executable is in the top level directory. It just looks for all of the files in the directory and gives it the target, and it makes it. It's relatively straightforward. The only problem I had with this file was I had actually forgotten to include the source directory in my build, and I was having a problem finding the line numbers when I was doing debugging. But anyway, that is the make file. I will put all of this up on my GitHub page eventually when I get it to a better state. But that's it in a nutshell. But if I go now to the source and show you the changes that I made, I'll start with the main program. Basically all I did here was keep main and the error messages that it generates in the same place. And I have not really changed anything here. It basically does the same thing it used to do, which is fine because that worked. But the one that was causing me issues was the pars command line. Now, what actually happened here was this line was missing, and I was doing this line, LB. Now, the difference basically is LB loads an 8-bit signed integer, right? Which is not what I wanted. Because I wanted the pointer to the array, and so that is what I needed to find. So LD was what I wanted, but I was using LB, which was wrong. So having corrected that, that all works. So now what it does is I also added a line way down here at the bottom that basically, in main, that skips the first argument. So here, what used to, and in fact it still says initialize to 0, but actually I don't initialize it to 0, I initialize it to 1. Because I want to skip the first argument, because that's just the name of the program. And so I skip that, and then it comes in here and it starts to parse it, and it jumps to the pars command up here. It's relatively straightforward. It pulls the values off the stack, and remember, if you remember from the last video, anytime you call printf or any of the C functions, it just clobbers all of the registers, so you've got to bring it back from the stack. And then into the temporary registers, I'm just loading the values that I want to check for. I want to check if it's between 47 and 57, which means it's the ASCII value of 0 through 9. If it's between that, then it's an integer. And then here, I actually check for 0, because if it starts with a 0, then it's probably a hex or binary, because it'll be 0H or 0B. And so here, I'm passing not between. So if it's not any of those numbers, it jumps down to not between. Otherwise, it initializes L3 to hold the value, and it starts the decimal conversion. And so it literally just loops here, converting the ASCII string into a decimal. At the end of the decimal conversion, it moves it in. And here, I actually I build the binary string, move the values, and output the result. Now, So I don't actually return to main, but I'm doing the exact same thing that main would do. But because output result exits the program, it was just easier to jump there and be done with it. Now, what doesn't work, and I'll show you this, oh, because you're in the wrong place. Is if I attempt to do some form of hexadecimal. This does not work, and it eventually will fall over in a big smoking heap, and as will the binary. So XB 101010 whatever will also fall over in a big smoking heap at the end. We can wait for it to segfault, or I could just quit. So the next step in the next video, hopefully they will have corrected it such that it will be able to output when you give it a hex value or a binary value, the correct values. Once that's done, the program as I initially started it is done. I may add a switch which would let you, for example, -H just prints the hexadecimal, or -B just prints the binary. But again, that's not really going to teach me much. It's just going to teach me to mess around with the command line parser, and all I'm doing is just shifting it around, or moving the loop a bit and doing some checks. So that's not really going to teach me much that I don't already know or have not already learned from this. I anticipate that the next video, when I get this working, will be the last one, and that I will have loaded it up on GitHub by then for you to take a look at the results. Please, 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 if you have any suggestions for enhancement, features, etc., let me know, and I'll try and add them in, because I would like it to progress with this utility, if possible, to something that's a bit better. I had considered doing addition, subtraction, multiplication, etc., and I might extend the utility to do that, but we'll see how we go. Anyway, if you like this sort of thing, please like and subscribe and all that jazz, and I'll see you next time. Bye.